What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE from the Montreal Gazette. Oh, James.
Oh, David.
I think we have a new superhero in the Marvel universe.
Uh-oh, who's that?
Judge Galliotsatos.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I gotta tell you. Or as some of us would like to refer to him, obvious man. You know, it's like the guy is. I mean, the judge. I mean, no disrespect to the judge. The judge's ruling on Bill 96 is so perfect insofar that he's basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, but his judgment to the Quebec government, to the Attorney General's office, is you can say whatever you want. That doesn't make it so, okay? Plus, what you're doing here, for some reason, even though, you know, this government likes to type up legislation for the benefit of Quebecor columnists, when it faces the test of actually being used in the real world, where people are being affected, it does not stand. Oh, by the way, the administration of the criminal justice system is actually none of your concern, so butt out. And I love how the suggestion from his former colleagues in the prosecutor's office that, you know, we can get to AI to try and pick up the slack. And he's basically saying, you know, if you can get a program to sort of compose Taylor Swift songs, okay, that's one thing. Not entirely sure it'll be as efficient picking up the nuances of a judgment made by an actual human being. And I love how he throws, there's a line I'm quoting, the language of Shakespeare might be translated to the language of Molière by way of R2-D2, which I thought was, you know, I think you pretty well got this in the ballpark where it belongs. Simon Jolin Barrette, who probably, you know, gave his seal of approval to this version of Bill 96 after being told about it for maybe 15 seconds, says he's going to appeal. Do you think? And of course, at that point, the next time, but by the time the appeal comes down, we'll be able to determine what day of the week it is. Is it a day of the week where Francois Legault thinks the Court of Appeal is nothing more than a bunch of federally appointed hacks? Or is it going to be the day of the week where Francois Legault thinks that the Court of Appeal is in fact the protector of Quebec's identity and rights? You can't tell these days, and I am telling you right now, David. It's a phrase I like to avoid using, but there is a waft, an aroma, a soupçon of Banana Republic that keeps coming off of these things when these things actually surface and they're subjected to the scrutiny of the real world. This entire fabricated Oz, this magic kingdom that is nothing more than a bunch of smoke and mirrors that has been churned out by Francois Legault and Company for the past 6 years, is shown to be exactly what it is, a Potemkin village of a society that exists perhaps in Francois Legault's recollection of what the 1950s in Quebec looked like, but quite frankly, it doesn't. It literally does not exist in the light of day. And we have an example of that today with this ruling from Superior Court.
Well said. And yet again, the Charter of Rights, notwithstanding clause doesn't apply here.
Absolutely.
This is outside the scope of the notwithstanding clause. So when the Charter is allowed to exist, this bill cannot stand.
And if I may fall back on my other, standby, how can I put it, piece of advice for Francois Legault and his coterie, which is, listen, you're running out of time here, so you better hoist the Jolly Rancher. If you believe that this is what makes Quebec distinct, if you believe if this is what is going to protect Quebec, don't mess around hopping up and down, giving exclusives to TVA, okay? Announce a referendum on the sovereignty of Quebec, because Quebec, as far as you're concerned, all of Quebec, the majority of Quebecers, even though you got less than 30% of the vote of all Quebecers in the last election, all Quebecers want this to occur. It's not going to occur in the federal system. Hold your referendum or just shut the hell up. But either way, I think a lot of us are becoming increasingly exhausted with this dog and pony show, which is masquerading as a government.
And that includes francophones. I just want to say.
No kidding.
It includes a lot francophones. Let's move
on.
on.
We're seeing that already.
Yeah, let's move on to PSPP. Why do you think he's pushing independence in English?
Because for the same reason every other PEC leader has at one point or another tried to court the so-called Anglophone vote. He knows he needs all the help he can get. He knows he needs every single percentage point of support if he's going to try and sell the sovereignist option. And there might be a lot of recently transplanted Ontarians who are, think they're in the land of gitans and poets and think that, that's marvelous. I support Quebec sovereignty. But the problem is, I think it's very difficult for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon or any other PQ leader to spend one day, essentially using the Canadian flag as a doormat, describing Canada as having it out for Quebec, out to basically, erase Quebec. And then turn around and suggest to a lot of people using some very suspicious math that, I know you're the same people who like the flag that I detest, but hey, listen, give us a try. This is how it'll be a paradise. It'll be a paradise. I've been hearing about the separatist paradise, courtesy of the PQ, since the mid-1980s. And guess what? It hasn't happened. It's been proved once and again to be as big a smoke and mirror show as the revised version we're getting from the CAC. So, good for them. I'm glad to see that they're spending all this money they've raised wisely. But it'll be interesting in maybe a couple of months' time to determine whether or not their numbers went up with Anglophone respondents to the inevitable Léger poll. Something tells me the answer is going to be no, Dave, and something tells me that this may be the last English language commercial we hear touting the Parti Québécois like forever.
Anyways, I don't know how they could afford John Williams for the soundtrack, but anyways, more power to them. The music is incredible. Last point, I don't know what this is about. The Liberals.
Did you not? I thought you would have saw that and fallen out of your chair this morning.
No, I may fall now.
Martin Tanguay, interim Liberal leader, Quebec Liberal leader, has said it's going to be his mission to protect the French minority in Canada. He wants Quebec. He wants Canada's population to be 50% Francophone, I believe, by 2050. And if this is not an objective for the Quebec Liberal Party, which is doing so well in the polls here in Quebec, I don't know what is. But frankly, I threw it in there because I saw it.
Goodness.
I could not make head or tail of it. And as far as I know, it has not been withdrawn. So get ready to hear more from the Quebec Liberal Party on the issue that is front and center with its supporters in Quebec, which is the fate of Francophones outside of Quebec.
Even Francophones outside of Quebec don't care what the Quebec Liberals think. I just want to, let's just...
And it's a very, very long list.
Yeah, it's a very long... So I'm literally... Now you got it. I've just fallen off my chair. Okay, I cannot believe that with everything going on, that is the one thing the brainiacs at Liberal Party headquarters are focusing on. I just can't believe it.
The one thing that comes through over and over again, day after day, week after week, month after month, is the disconnect, the complete disconnect between like you say, the brainiacs, the brain trolls. the only equivalent I can see is like the high command of either side during the First World War, completely detached, out of the loop in terms of what's actually going on in the field and coming up with these ridiculous strategies, offensives, whatever, that have no basis whatsoever in reality. I think Marc Tanguay, I'd say he should know better, but I guess he does not, because this is for real stuff. This is not something that he just sort of, out of the side of his mouth that he said. This is like for real stuff. And I love how the press, but in their coverage, their lead is in French. It's, ignored by Quebec Francophones. Marc Tanguay wants to turn to the, wants half of Canada to be speaking French by 2050. It's like, I don't know where to start. I don't know why we're having this conversation. I don't know what provoked this. Maybe you can get him on the show to explain himself, because I sure as hell can't figure it out. But he wants Quebec to become the flagship of Canadian francophonie. when in fact a lot of people in Quebec, or a lot of Quebec's political class, want them to become the pirate ship of Quebec sovereignty. But that's a story for another day.
Let's remind everybody the latest poll, the Quebec Liberal Party poll, is polling at 6% with Quebec francophones.
And you think they have nothing left to lose, but you know what? I'll bet you that number will go down between now and the next poll. Hey, listen, I know we're running out of time, but you know, we had this big conversation about yesterday, the long weekend. I was talking to some, with all due respect to you, Dave, and I love talking to you, but I was talking to people in the real world after I talked to you, and we talked about this very subject. And I think you can get all of Quebec to agree that what is referred to as, the Victoria Day weekend or the Fête des Patriotes is in Quebec plutôt la Fête des Jardiniers.
Exactly.
There was not a pépinière that was not jam-packed.
There you go.
Everybody was out. I was out doing my yard work, preparing. I got my little electric tiller now. Everything's going fine. Everybody's out there. I don't think people were talking about Her Imperial Majesty, nor yet the Patriots of 1838. I think they were out wondering how well their ground plantings were going to survive this past winter and how good their gardens are going to look this year.
Here. I got a lot of listeners that have suggested this. And, if you call it like Plant Day, Journée de la Plante, it's the same word. So you could use it. It unites the two solitudes.
And you know what? Always the twain shall meet.
Great to speak with you as always. Speak tomorrow.
À demain.